What's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 10 crazy things I got wrong about America before I went for the first time. This is Diane Jennings. I mean, I've reacted to her many times before. I'm assuming all of you know who she is by now. But yeah, we're going to just check this out. This is 4 years ago, so I guess this is before she went for the first time. That's the whole point of the video. God, I feel like Einstein right now. Yeah. I don't know. We're going to check this out. Links are also in the description to my Patreon, where you can see reactions that I can't post to YouTube, movies, TV series, music reactions, weather reactions, all that kind of stuff. Also, I already mentioned this in the video earlier today, but I know not everyone watches each of my videos. Sometimes you just watch certain types of ones. If I'm sniffling or coughing or clearing my throat, my allergies are flaring up. The last week or so, I've just been a bit rough. Or my eyes are like watering, or like, I don't know, I've just been feeling it, you know. But I'm not ill. I'm just feeling ill because of my allergies. I'm very allergic to things like dust, so maybe I've been like something's just happened and now maybe it's to do with dust, because it doesn't feel warm outside and I only really get my hay fever getting like flaring up when it's a bit hotter outside, and like, I don't know, the flowers are beaming and loving life, and then them loving life is causing me to hate life, you know, the pollen and all that sort of stuff. But maybe it's just dust allergy, I don't know, but I'm just feeling allergic, you know. So yeah, sorry if I'm sniffling and stuff, but we're going to check this out and see. Hopefully going to enjoy. Let's check this out.
So when I was going through my list of video ideas for the week and deciding what to do, I came across this one, and apparently I've just been scrolling past it on a weekly basis because it's such an obvious video for me to do on this channel. I can't believe I haven't done it already. Whenever you decide to visit somewhere new as a person, you definitely go in with some of your assumptions and things that you've heard about a place, and you could definitely call those prejudices and biases. And when I went to America for the first time, I definitely brought a lot of that with me.
Okay, so things she got wrong. She's probably thinking that people will be like carrying guns like sort of freely. I'm going to just assume that's number one, what she's going to say for sure, because I think that's what most people would probably worry about if you don't really know much about the country you're going to, or even if you know a lot, to be fair. So that, very car-centric, which probably is true. I don't know if that's just like an assumption that someone would have. 10 things is a lot. I can't really think of 10 things I would think of. You can get from one place to another very easily when you can't. I guess that would be one of these sort of things that could fit into this, because obviously people would sometimes plan to go to the US and think they can go from New York to Miami to Dallas to Portland, you know, all over in a few, maybe like a week's sort of time, when it's not going to be like that at all. But yeah, let's check this out anyway. Sorry, I've got to let this run.
Because, as I've said before, in Ireland we grow up watching people on the TV and film, and a lot of our pop culture comes from America. So we think we know about America until we go there. Today I thought it would be fun if we looked at a couple of things that I presumed before I went there that turned out to be wrong.
So wrong.
This video is going to kind of sum up a lot of things I've said before, but I haven't collectively put them all together in one cohesive list. I hope it's cohesive. As always, this is a list. It's full of generalizations. I'm not specifically talking about you as an individual, Chad. Yeah, Chad's now going to be the collective term for all those commenters. Before I get into the list, be sure to subscribe. Otherwise, the next time you go to eat your favorite food, you're going to be like, I don't like this anymore. And that's a little heartbreaking. And on with the list. Coming in at number 10, it was thinking of America as a country when it's kind of more like a continent. Before I went to...
That's kind of like what I said then. The sort of planning to go to one place and another within like a short space of time, or short time frame.
America, I definitely approached it in the way I would going to France or Italy or Spain for the first time.
Quel d'où? Je croyais n'être qu'un uniforme.
I was thinking of it as a collective culture, and that everybody was kind of similar, and that the climate would be similar. Even though I knew on an intellectual level everywhere was different, I sort of hadn't put together the fact that each state was like a little country. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely common traits among American people and American lifestyles, but there are also huge differences as well. Culturally and climate-wise, you can get totally different places right next to each other. And the people have totally different approaches to life as well. For example, in LA, people in shops kiss your ass because they work on commission, whereas in New York they're really rude to you because they're in New York.
Wow.
People are overall just very different in each state, though they do share commonalities. So yeah, going in, I definitely think if it's your first time going there, think of each state like a country as opposed to a county, if that makes sense. Coming in at number 9, it's thinking that because you're from a Western country and America is a Western country that you'll have everything in common, whereas you just won't. Americans have very different approaches to Irish people, for example, to things. I think a good way to describe it is it's just a different rhythm there. A general sense of humor with American people can be different, although individuals will click with each other on an individual level as things tend to go.
I like you.
Yeah.
You're funny and you're nicely shaped.
There's definitely a lot more sensitivities in America, so you have to be a bit more careful about what you say and who you say it to. And at the same time, you also have to be really direct, which sounds like a contradiction in itself, but hear me out. American people in general tend to just be very direct with each other. They'll say what they're thinking, whereas Irish people sort of beat around the bush, and we're all kind of tuned into that because in America people are just straight up with each other. Subtlety is not such a big thing there. So in the same way, when you make a joke, for example, people can sometimes take it at surface level, like what you say is what you mean, whereas you're just kind of making a joke. So you need to bear in mind that people think that way there. The next thing, and I'm going to touch on this without getting into it too much if possible, is that guns affect the culture. So before I went to America, I was aware that gun culture was a thing and that they have guns, whereas coming from Ireland, I'd never really seen a gun before. A lot of people pointed out that the Troubles were in Ireland and I should have seen a gun, but I didn't grow up around the Troubles. And also some people questioned about our police force. Most of our police force do not have guns. Only the special forces have guns. And honestly, I haven't been in a situation where I've had to be around the special forces much in my life. Haven't robbed too many banks that you know of. So yeah, the first time I ever saw a gun was when I went to America. And people in America are hugely passionate about how they feel about guns, whether they're pro or against. There doesn't seem to really be any middle ground. So my advice, if you are going to America, try not to get into a gun debate with anyone, irrespective of how they feel, because I definitely feel like
That'll be a long day. Again, either side, just, I can understand, just stay out of it, man. That's definitely what I would do.
I would need to be a bit more informed about the whole thing before I got into a deep conversation.
But when she says there's like, it's either people are on one side or the other, is like, when it comes to like guns, is that actually one of those things where you will truly just find no one in the middle? It will just be either side, or will there also be people that are in the middle that sort of, I guess, have opinions on either side that they sort of agree with, so they're sort of just sort of planted there? I just feel like that isn't really the case when it comes to guns. People are just very strong one way or the other. Like, when it's politics, people can be in the middle because there's so many different things that go into it. I feel like with guns, it probably wouldn't be like that, but I could be wrong. So, I mean, I guess let me know in the comments with that.
About it. I remember people saying that my Black Friday in Texas was so chill because people are very polite in Texas because they're all afraid of getting shot by each other's guns. Now, I don't exactly think that's the case, but I do think the knowledge that there are guns out there affects how people are. Not saying if that's good or bad, just saying it surprised me.
I was on the fence about this.
The next thing I got wrong about America before I went there was how to tip. So in Ireland, you tip 10% on a bill. And you tend to tip if you've had a really nice dinner or something, but not so much if you go to a diner, and not so much if you get your nails done unless you really want to. Tipping in Ireland is if somebody did a really good job, you leave a 10% tip. When I've gone to other countries in Europe, it actually tends to be even less than 10%. You'll just leave a couple of coins or whatever you have in your pocket. In America, the standard tip on everything is 20%, and this blew my mind. I did not realize that you have to tip for everything in America. And you guys have given me some really good advice on how to tip and stuff like that, which has been much appreciated in my travels. I understand that tipping comes from people's minimum wage not being enough to sustain themselves, and that's why you guys tip. I've definitely gotten more used to it, but it does kind of blow my mind, the whole tipping culture. And when I get back to Ireland, I'm still in this weird tipping mentality, and I find myself tipping everyone, and in Ireland people are like, oh, thanks. Nobody is going to turn down your 20% tip in Ireland, but it is unusual. I also did not realize people are nice to you for tips in America. When this dawned upon me, it kind of broke my heart a bit, I'm not going to lie. I just thought all the waiters and waitresses were really nice in America, but they just want my money.
Fairs.
The next thing I really underestimated before I went to America was how extreme things get there. Because there are so many people, you have like some major extremes going on in your country, and it's easy for people to overlook things because there are just so many people. The first time I went to America, I was really surprised by the weight thing.
34% of American adults 17% of our children are considered obese.
I also was kind of blown away by the homeless population.
Nearly 700,000 Americans experience homelessness on any given night in the country.
Also on extreme things, people tend to be super extra over there. When I'm in a room full of American people, I definitely sometimes feel...
What the fuck was that? Why did she get a mukbang of someone just slurping some spaghetti? Is that to show how extreme people are?
On extreme things, people tend to be super extra over there.
What the fuck?
When I'm in a room full of American people, I definitely sometimes feel like a bit of a wallflower because there's just so many people with such big personalities. But I guess the quieter people like me would also feel like they are fading into the background a little. We're just quieter about it. The next thing I got wrong was thinking that where I went was not super relevant. Yes, I'm touching back on that time I went into Compton. I've said to you guys before that in Ireland there aren't really these kind of super unsafe places to go. You can go pretty much anywhere once you keep your wits about you. But in America there are definitely places that people are very surprised that you would go to. When visiting America, you need to drive and you need to plan out where you're going a lot more than I did the first time I went there. You can't just wander around America as I mistakenly thought the first time I went there. Who knew?
You shouldn't be here.
The next thing I did not realize before I went to America was how much national pride there is. And I actually think this is a really lovely thing. Americans put flags...
I feel like, in terms of all countries though, I feel like Ireland is probably up there with countries, like people within the country that have this like a similar sort of pride to Americans, right? Like I just sort of associate Irish people with loving their country, and that's all good. I respect that. So I feel like maybe for her, maybe it wouldn't have been as much of a shock. But maybe I'm just judging Irish people off maybe a certain few, and maybe it isn't like that. But I just always maybe because of like days like St. Patrick's Day, it's so big globally, or you at least hear it globally. But it's obviously a day to celebrate Irish people, etc. So, I mean, and Ireland as a whole. So, I mean, I guess maybe I'm just judging it off that. Because, like, I think St. George is there in the UK, or in England, sorry. Bro, no one cares about that, I'm going to be honest. And that's basically our version of St. Patrick's Day. So, yeah, maybe I'm just judging it off that. But I feel like Ireland is probably... The people there are probably a lot more patriotic, or a lot closer in terms of patriotism to the US than a lot of other countries. But who knows?
Everywhere on everything, and they can quote the Constitution to you. If you paid me $1 million, I could not tell you one thing from the Irish Constitution. When the anthem is played in America,
the UK,
people
England.
cry. In Ireland, people barely know the words to the anthem.
I mean, we never really tried before.
And for the most...
Would that be true? I'm sure Irish people know the national anthem. The thing is, a lot of things are in Europe. I feel like sport is a main reason for people knowing like national anthems. Like when it's like a World Cup or like a European Championship. Basically big sporting competitions, international ones. Because before each game, you'll have the national anthem of each country. I feel like that's partly a big reason as to why people will know them in like European countries. But I'm sure most Irish people know their national anthem. I can't speak for them, but I would assume they would.
For the most part, American people are just really proud of their country. But they also have a lot of negative things to say about it. And that is freedom of speech. The next thing I did not realise before I went to America is the abundance of fast food that you can have there. In Ireland, there's maybe a dozen big fast food chains. In America, there are hundreds, and they are literally everywhere. Fast food for a lot of people in America is a way of life, and I didn't really realize that so much. I think the convenience of it and stuff makes it that way for people. It's quick, it's easy, it's literally everywhere. Also, fast food is really delicious and addictive, so the people who don't eat fast food are kind of more the exception than people who eat fast food at least once a week. If I live...
Oh, eating fast food once a week is fine. Bro, who doesn't... I mean... I thought she was like saying like twice, 3 times a day. I guess some people probably do that, but I don't think that's just in the US. That's just a lot of people who do it, who can't be asked to cook, or they have no time to. But eating fast food once a week, is that what she's saying is the norm or not the norm.
Also, fast food is really delicious and addictive, so the people who don't eat fast food are kind of more the exception than people who eat fast food at least once a week. If I lived
Oh, okay.
there, I would eat fast food pretty much every single day. The next thing I did not realize before I went to America is how much people want to put you in a category when you get there. People want to know your belief system right out the gate. I think because America is so big, people trying to find their own communities and people who agree with them on certain things and have the same outlook as them, there's a desire for a sense of belonging. And I think that can be a good thing and it can be a negative thing. People will outright ask what your political system is, what your ethnicity is, and stuff like that.
What are you?
From the perspective of an outsider, it definitely seems to me like people want to belong to certain groups. Feel free to discuss that one in the comments in a respectful way. It's just something I observed. And the number one thing I underestimated before I went to America was how big the American dream is and the infinite possibilities that you have in America. When I went to America for the first time, I was taken aback at how huge the possibilities are. And I hadn't really realized in Ireland the limitations that we have. There's kind of only so far that you can go, only so successful that you can be in a small country like Ireland. In America, no matter what you want to be, you can be that and a million times more. And that's the American dream. And people go there in pursuit of the American dream, and some people get it and some people don't. But there's something really nice about the possibilities being...
A lot of people don't. A lot of people, like, when I think of like the American dream, I think of like people going to Hollywood to try and make it, you know. Like they've got this dream of becoming this big actor, and of course that's like, so the chances of that are so low. I know that's not actually what the American dream is. I'm just sort of thinking of that as like a sort of an example of it not working. But it's definitely a goal for not just Americans, for just many people throughout the like, I guess the Western world. I guess you could say, or maybe just throughout the world, to be fair. Because if you're set in the US, you're living good. It's just getting to that point where you're set for life, more or less, because that's the hard part. But that's the hard part anywhere, to be fair. You're not going to get stuff easily. But, yeah.
Kind of endless there. Not only can you be rich, you can be crazy rich. Not only can you be famous, you can be crazy famous. And there's loads of people who are doing that. I was only reading this week how the highest paid presenter in Ireland gets €500,000 a year. Which obviously is a lot of money, but when you compare it to the American wages, Jesus Christ. It's definitely something I would imagine if I lived in America, I would kind of take for granted. But basically the possibilities are out there and you can go out and you can take them. So, you know, it's only Monday. Go do that this week. And that's it for today's list. Feel free to engage with one another in the comments and respect.
There we go. Let's see what the comments have to say. You definitely need to visit non-city life in America. A lot of things from your list are very different if you're not in the city. I lived the first 35 years of my life in Australia and have now lived in America for 16 plus years, and I'm a US citizen. I never knew how many rights I did not have in Australia before I moved to America. Damn. I think it's really interesting to hear about how outsiders think about America. As a Canadian, whenever I visit the USA, I try to go to small cities and small towns. The people are extremely friendly, especially in Texas. In the US, we even tip cows. Huh? Wait, what? I don't know what's going on there. Tipping cows? But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. Let me know your thoughts on this, and I guess whether you think she went into this with a positive view or a negative view. But that's pretty much it. Until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.